Start this by launching Creative Cloud to show you something cool that you might not be aware of and what I'm going to be running today. So one of the new things we've done is we've added the ability for some of the applications, the video apps for one, to allow you to run the current beta to sort of catch up on those new features before they get released, maybe help us detect if there's a bug or a performance issue, or for me, just more important to kind of see what's coming down the road and see whether or not it's going to be a game changer for me. And I guarantee you some of the things I'll show you today will be total game changers. So I'm going to click on beta apps, and as you see, it looks like I've got a couple of installed betas. It tells me that there are updates available for Premiere Pro and for After Effects. Again, this little checkerboard icon shows you that I'm running the beta today, so I'm going to go ahead and update these and say let's update Premiere and let's update After Effects, and I'll be right back. It takes these probably about 3.5 minutes to update. Okay, looks like those are done updating, so let's just jump right into After Effects. Something I've been waiting for a long time, and it's finally available in the beta today, and it's called Roto Brush 2. You might have seen this demoed at Adobe Max a few years ago. It was known as Project Fast Mask, and I'm actually using the same image that they showed you at Adobe Max, just to sort of show you, how far it's come from what you saw at the show. Okay, I'm going to start this out just by grabbing my dancer footage here and dragging it to a new comp just to create a new project. And I'm going to double click on this to bring up the layer. And I'm just going to go ahead and take this down to about 5 seconds or so. And let's change the comp setting size to 5 seconds as well. And let's preview that. So what we're going to be working on is separating our subject, our dancer, from the background, so I can go ahead and put up some information behind him as if he's dancing in front of some graffiti that's painted on that gray wall. So again, to be able to separate this from the background is going to be a pretty heavy task. Nothing that After Effects can't handle, but honestly, it takes a lot of work, known as rotoscoping, to create another layer and separate these two from each other. So I'm going to wind him back. Now I'm already on my layer that you can see here. Again, you just double click on the asset here to bring up the layer panel. I'm going to click on the Roto Brush. Now this is Roto Brush 2. We didn't rename it. You can switch this in the effects settings if you want to go back to the original Roto Brush. So again, we just didn't want to give you extra tools, so you have access to both. Again, I think once you see how this works, you'll probably never go back. So we're going to make this process as similar to Photoshop as possible, because you guys already probably know how to do a brush selection inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to just come down here and just say, look, I want to go ahead and grab him all the way down to his shoe. And it went ahead and processed that. I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Alt key. It's learning with each stroke. So I'm going to come and be very careful as I come in and make each of these selections, because I want to be able to tell it what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep, because it's remembering all these things as I'm making these individual brush strokes. And let's go ahead and keep his hand here, and maybe a little bit more around his knuckles there. And it looks like it grabs some of the background there, so I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I don't need that. And you can see it instantly tightens it up as it learns what it is that I'm trying to keep. And let's grab his nose there, and notice it just grabbed his nose and didn't grab the back of the background, because again, it's learning as it's going along. And maybe just give me his hand here, and that actually looks pretty good. So I've got the selection that I need. Let's go ahead and just press the space bar, and it's going to start to propagate. And this is really what you're paying for when you're getting this new P620 system. This is actually happening really, really fast. To do this any other way would have just taken you just a lot of time to get done. So now you can sort of just watch the process, see what's going on. You can go back there and do some cleanup work if you need to. I just like to let it run all the way through. You can actually do lots of different edge shifting and sort of clean things up and sort of reduce the chatter and work on feathering and all that sort of stuff if you need to. But just to watch our artificial intelligence engine known as Adobe Sensei in action. And again, you're teaching this thing as it goes along. You can stop it at any time, back it up a few frames and say, hey, you forgot this piece here, and then go from there. So I think I kind of like this, so I'm going to go back and just play this out and just make sure that that looks like what I want it to look like. That actually looks great. You can get in and look at this on an alpha channel if you need to. You can remove them from the background, add the background again. But all in all, that looks pretty fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. Probably should have done this ahead of time, but that's okay. Easy enough to fix. And I'm going to go ahead and just rename that BG for background. And I'm going to just slip in here and under effects, just remove that Roto Brush that I did so there's no effect on that. Now the next thing I want to do on my background layer is go ahead and target the background layer with camera tracking. So all you have to do at that point is just get back to your composition layer. So I've closed the layer panel there, and I'm just going to come in and go down to track and stabilize, track camera. Now what it's going to do is, again, it's going to start to analyze. This is where that Ryzen processor is going to really kick in, get those cores moving. Now, one of the things that I like to point out while this is going on is we are working on some pretty exciting news for After Effects. You're actually going to see some pretty dramatic speed improvements later in the year, which is another reason why I wanted to point out the beta for everyone here, because if you're a heavy After Effects user and you really want to start to use, all cores and really see the power come out of the system that either you currently have, or again, maybe you're looking shopping today and really curious about the P620 that we're on today, I promise you, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you see this new feature come out of After Effects, which is a dramatic speed improvement. This is going to be a very fun year for After Effects. So we'll give this just a couple more seconds. Looks like I have about 35 frames or so to go through. I didn't want to speed this up because I really wanted you to sort of see the process and watch what's going on in this particular video. This is a 4K video here, so it does take a little bit of extra time, and it looks like we're all set. And what you're going to notice now is you'll see all these dots if you haven't seen After Effects tracking before, and these dots are going to allow me to stick things to that and have the camera basically angles just use that as a placeholder, as a point in time for what we call a 3D plane tracker. So let me show you how this works. So what you're going to want to do is just find a plane that's, in this case, pretty flat, maybe a little bit of an angle if you can, but I'm going to go ahead and use this. And what it's done is to place a target on one of the colored dots there. It's triangulating to sort of figure out what angle I want this at. And again, you can manipulate it pretty easy if you need to. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you want to put your object. You're just trying to find something that aligns with the image. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just create some text. And let's go down, and I'm going to grab my pointer here. And maybe we'll just move this text over here. And let's change our text layer. I selected this font because it looks a little like graffiti. Now, all we have to do at this point is just put this between our subject here and press play. And we're going to watch that propagate all the way through again. And what you're seeing here in just a couple of minutes is the power of Adobe Sensei, again, the power of AI that gets smarter as you work with the file, be able to allow you to do these types of tasks, which you never really would have had time to do, certainly for most social ads where I think this is going to get used quite a bit. It's pretty amazing just to sort of see this develop. I've been watching this technology develop at Adobe for the past couple of years, and it's just amazing how far it's come. And again, I think this is going to be a game changer for just a lot of the work that needs to get done. Again, being able to do things that you would never take on just because you don't have time. Again, I've done this fairly quick in just a couple of minutes. Again, if you want to put more detail in it or you want to give it a heavier pass, there is a best setting, and there's lots of other settings that you can in fact use to really refine this. Just amazing. It's really fun to sort of watch this whole process come alive. And again, I am sort of talking over this so you can see it happen in real time, just so you know there's no smoke and mirrors going on here. And from here, I just going to go back and play this back for you so you can sort of see what it is that we've created. But I think a lot of people are going to be happy with this. And at this point, you're free to go in and say, well, the Lenovo's a little too stark. You might want to go in and lighten that up a little bit, make it blend in a bit better, maybe change the angle ever so slightly. But easy enough, you're able just to get right in there and make that look like whatever you need to do, however you need to be creative. Let's jump over to Premiere Pro and take a look at some of the new beta features in Premiere Pro. Again, we're running the beta as you saw there. And here we are. One of the first things I wanted to jump right in and show you was what we're calling scene edit detection. As you can see, I've got these clips here, but there's lots of clips in this single clip. So how do we separate those out? It's really easy. All you have to do is right mouse click, go to scene edit detection. You've got some choices here for what you want it to do with audio, how sensitive it's going to be, because again, this is going to be a fairly easy one just because it's the one that I just had handy. But I've used this on lots of family videos to get in and start separating things out so I can use those clips for other purposes. So again, this is going to be one of those features where I think a lot of people will have lots of different uses for it. But one thing you're going to see is when I click on this, it's fairly quick. This is about a minute's worth of video. It's going to run in there and just scan as fast as it can. Again, really putting this system to the task. And it's already gone in there and separated out. I'm just going to go in and sort of pick every other clip here and just give you an idea of how accurate that was. I have seen some of these algorithms before. This isn't a new feature, but this one, I tell you, is really good and really accurate. So as you can see here, lots of different uses that you can use for that. So again, as I just said, I had done some family videos. I actually had 21 years of video for my son's birthday that I had to sort of comb through, and I just threw this on each of those and was able to pick out all the clips that I needed. Again, it's a great way to repurpose video as well. Another great feature that we've just recently added is the ability to have more audio options inside your project. So more stock audio projects for soundtracks, stingers, bumpers, and so forth. And you can find that when you jump over to audio. You'll see there's a brand new setting called Browse now, and it will browse Adobe stock. And what you can do is come in and just sort of, look at the moods. This really isn't that much different than a lot of stock audio services. But I'll show you with its integration, this is what makes the difference and why we've added this to our own stock collection. So I'll come in here and say, well, let's maybe do some epic music here, and I'll just close this one down. And if I want to pick out a certain genre to start to narrow some of this down, let's say that we kind of want some background music, and if you got any filters, you can go ahead and set the beats per minute. If you need something sort of fast or slow, go ahead and set that. And of course, you've got some duration options here. And it also is great because it shows you which audio partner we've teamed up with to bring this to you for this particular sort. So what I really love about this is you can see I've got my playhead at the beginning, and all I have to do, I don't have to download anything. I just hit play and it will activate the timeline for me so I can kind of see if I like that or if I need to go back in and look at some other options. And you can also jump within the timeline and sort of figure out if that's what you want. And if not, you can wind that back, or you could sort of tell that to go back each time. But not real happy with that. Let's come in, maybe action theme. Yeah, well, that may be a bit much for that one. Pretty awesome. So just being able to get in here and sort of figure this out. Again, if I hit the space bar to start and stop, I can go ahead and do that. I can wind it all the way back. And just this ability to get in and jump around without having to download anything is pretty awesome. And again, whenever you're ready, you can right mouse click and add that to your project. You get a sample of that, and when you go ahead and purchase the stock audio, it switches out the low res audio file for the high res audio file. Really, really nice to see, and couldn't be easier to use. Another new feature that I've been pretty excited to show is our support for Apple's new ProRes RAW. This is another camera format. Atomos has been at the forefront of this for a couple of years now. We support this both on Mac and Windows, obviously running Windows today on this new Lenovo P620. But what's really awesome is I now have the power within the system to read any of the camera formats. You know, Nikon's announced new support for this. Panasonic Lumix, I've had it for a while as an option on the GH5 and some other cameras. And it's a really, really great format. So I'm just going to go in and just drag a couple of these on the timeline. Plays back beautifully on this system. This is a 4K file in this particular example. I can just come in. It's very fluid. Obviously, we've got some over bright there, so you can click on the effects controls, go to the master settings where you'll find those raw settings and just bring those down maybe a little bit to kind of dial this in a little bit and sort of see what does that bring us. I mean, that file is really kind of overexposed there, so let's just try dialing that down a little bit more and sort of bring those colors back where they need to be. But this is really what people are looking for when you're dealing with raw footage, that ability to talk the camera's language directly within the plugin and manipulate those settings without having to be, you know, really bothered by what you're shooting on site. Again, it's always best if you can to set that camera correctly in the first place. But again, knowing that you have this latitude where you can get in here and just adjust these out is pretty awesome. So I'm a huge fan of this. Now, another thing you can do is work with 8K footage. I've been pretty impressed with this. I need to go ahead and change this to 8K, and so come on and bring this back out. And I'm going to go ahead and put this at full. And this system does a really good job. It is dropping a few frames here and there, but it overall does a pretty good job of allowing me to get in here and play this back. And it's really usable and very, very smooth. Now, part of this, let me just be honest with you, today has a lot to do when you're working with, you know, heavy 4K footage, multiple layers, as well as 8K footage. You really need a fast storage system, and I am running off of the internal NVMe on the motherboard. This P620 is pretty awesome. It gives you some great choices about where you want to put your media. NVMe sizes are getting larger all the time. Again, if you're new to that term, NVMe, it is just the new style format of SSD that runs at the PCI bus speed. It's pretty amazing how far this technology has come, and I always recommend either Thunderbolt 3 RAIDs if you need a lot of storage, obviously 10 gig E, or if you really want to just see what the system can do, NVMe directly on the motherboard. Again, real happy with ProRes RAW support at 8K, 4K, 2K, and so forth. A feature we added a while ago, a couple of releases ago, is our Auto Reframe feature that will allow me to take content and repurpose it, maybe for social media or other uses. So maybe Instagram, TikTok, IGTV, and so forth. So all you have to do is right mouse click, go to Auto Reframe Sequence. When you right mouse click on the sequence and go ahead and choose 9:16. Again, we've had this feature for a while, but what I'm going to show you is it's now been optimized and it runs really fast on this system. I mean, you can just kind of watch this thing down here in the corner, process that as it analyzes it, and it's basically done. At this point, I can just get right in here and play this back. It just looks awesome.
Dreamers, the make-believers who pull the ethers from.
Again, looks fantastic. Go all the way to the end here, and you can see it just tracks that motion. Again, not a new feature, but it's been enhanced and it's just much faster. And lastly, I want to show you what's new for exporting. Some new options there, so definitely take a look at that. But what I'm going to start with is just showing you what we've been working on for H.264 and H.265. And what I have here is I have a sequence that's done thanks to Devin Supertramp and his team for the content. And I've got an adjustment layer going all the way across. And the reason I have an adjustment layer is this is going to manipulate every single frame with this color adjustment that I put on there to try to make it pop a little bit. You can sort of see the before and after. So I wanted to make sure that I've manipulated all of this footage. I am using Apple ProRes footage on this, and it looks like it's about 2 minutes in length. So let's go ahead and export this and just show you how fast this is. So I'll go to Export Media, H.264. It's a 4K file, some audio on there, and when I come down here, you'll see that I'm using new hardware encoding. Now this is an AMD Threadripper Ryzen system, obviously. So what it's now using is it's using the new GPU support that we have for NVIDIA and AMD cards, and in this case, it's using the NVIDIA RTX 5000. And let me just tell you, it is fast. So for a 2-minute project, being able to complete this in about 30 seconds, you'll notice those numbers as I'm talking through this will sort of cycle a bit quicker as it gets a little less complicated on converting this ProRes to H.264. Again, I wanted to show you this in real time with no speed up, and it is, to me, mind-boggling that I'm able to get this creative, change every single frame while it's recalculating that file, and it's now taken 2-minute video roughly down to 30 seconds, so pretty much a 4-to-1. Absolutely amazing to me how fast this can be. So really, really happy being able to pop this back out, double click on that, and being able to preview
Give me
that.
Juice. Give me that juice.
Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time to join Adobe today.